The thing about funerals is that they're never really about the person in the casket, are they? I learned this standing at the back of the room at my father-in-law Glenn Darby's memorial, wedged awkwardly behind distant relatives and potted plants. You see, my seat, the one labeled reserved next to my wife, Karina, was currently occupied by her designer handbag. When I tried to sit, she coolly whispered, "You can stand back there," directing me toward the forgotten edges of the room. I was the forgotten edge of her life, I suppose, and now everyone knew it. Karina delivered a eulogy so polished it could have won her an Oscar. She praised Glenn as a businessman, philanthropist, and loving father, her voice catching at just the right moments. Not once did she mention my name, the guy who'd spent every Sunday driving Glenn to physical therapy, fixing his porch and listening patiently to endless war stories. My efforts had vanished like smoke, as easily forgotten as my name apparently was. It would have been easier to swallow if Karina hadn't also had those divorce papers sitting neatly folded in her purse. I caught a glimpse earlier, my name boldly typed on legal stationery. Seems she thought it polite to officially end our 8-year marriage just after burying her dad. Charming woman, Karina. 3 days after the funeral, I was summoned to a formal will reading. Against my better judgment, curiosity dragged me to the lawyer's office. I half expected to be escorted out as a mistake, especially when Karina shot daggers at me from the front of the room. But instead, attorney Richard Hartwell calmly announced that Karina was to receive a mere $1 million. A slap in her face, considering Glenn's fortune was worth over $250 million. Her jaw tightened, her carefully composed facade cracking. But that was nothing compared to the bombshell that followed. "The remainder of my estate," Hartwell read with dramatic flair, "I leave to my son-in-law, Wendell Morrison." Me, the pothole-fixing, porch-repairing son-in-law, who'd just been exiled to the back of the funeral hall, was now inheriting nearly $250 million. Karina was stunned speechless, though not for long. Her mask slipped briefly, showing a cold calculation I'd only glimpsed occasionally during our marriage. Later, she cornered me at my job site, thrusting revised divorce papers at me with the generous offer of $5 million, urging me to do the right thing. Her eyes flashed when I refused. "You're nothing," she hissed, her carefully curated charm dissolving into pure venom. Yet, Glenn had one last twist for us. A condition in the will stated that if Karina and I reconciled within 18 months, a significant portion of the estate would go to charity. He knew his daughter would try to claw her way back, and he'd protected me from her expertly disguised greed. Karina didn't disappoint. She showed up at family barbecues, reminiscing about our happy days, even leaving nostalgic wedding photos as emotional bait. But the best part was when an anonymous envelope appeared, hinting darkly at foul play in Glenn's passing. A quick search of Glenn's house revealed the truth. Emails showing Karina tampering with his will, pharmacy receipts for unprescribed heart medications, and a chilling handwritten note from Glenn himself suspecting his daughter's sinister intentions. Karina's desperation escalated. Late-night calls became veiled threats. "Be careful, Wendell," she'd warn, her voice brittle with tension. But Glenn had seen it coming, meticulously preparing his estate and protecting the only family he'd trusted me, ironically enough. In the end, the inheritance wasn't just money. It was liberation from a woman who saw love as leverage and family as financial strategy. Standing in the ruins of my marriage, holding undeniable proof of betrayal, I realized Glenn's greatest gift wasn't wealth. It was clarity. The inheritance brought clarity, but clarity doesn't heal a heart broken by deceit. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself living under the harsh spotlight of sudden wealth, fielding congratulations from strangers and whispers from familiar faces. Money has a peculiar way of distorting relationships, and I quickly realized how little I had left to trust. Karina didn't vanish quietly into the sunset. No, she lingered, circling like a vulture sensing weakness. Her presence haunted the periphery of my life, each encounter carefully orchestrated, dripping with feigned regret. "We can still fix this," she'd whisper, tears carefully rehearsed, hands reaching for mine as though they hadn't once tried to push me away. But the warmth she pretended was never convincing. The chill of betrayal was too fresh, too potent. I moved out of the house we'd shared, into an apartment overlooking the city. Felt strange, alienating, like living someone else's life. The view from the balcony was spectacular, but it also served as a reminder of how high the fall could be. It was there, watching the city lights blink into existence each night, that I first felt the creeping loneliness of wealth. Meanwhile, Karina, with her share of the inheritance, made attempts to reclaim her public image. Charity events, press releases, carefully posed photographs, each step designed to paint her as misunderstood, the tragic victim of an unjust will. The media loved her narrative, casting me as the opportunistic villain who'd stolen her inheritance. But what the media didn't know, or refused to report, was the truth behind Karina's carefully curated facade. The anonymous warnings continued, each one more detailed than the last, each hinting at darker secrets hidden beneath Karina's polished exterior. The paranoia grew exhausting, pushing me into action. I hired investigators to dig deeper, unraveling the layers of Karina's carefully constructed lies. The discoveries were staggering. Illicit affairs, covert dealings with shady business figures, and financial manipulations far more extensive than I'd imagined. When the investigator placed photographs on my desk, Karina meeting secretly with the executor of her father's estate, I knew I'd underestimated her desperation. This wasn't about reclaiming a lost inheritance. It was about erasing evidence, rewriting history, regaining control. The thought sent chills down my spine. How far would she go to rewrite our story? One evening, returning to my apartment, I found the lock tampered with, evidence that someone had attempted entry. Karina's desperation had turned dangerous, crossing boundaries I never expected. It wasn't about money or pride anymore. It was survival. I was trapped in a psychological chess match with a woman who had no qualms about sacrificing pawns or kings. With each passing day, the line between caution and paranoia blurred. Karina was escalating, her actions growing bolder, more reckless. I had to make a choice. Retreat and protect myself or confront her head-on, revealing her deceit to the world and risking public humiliation. In that quiet, lonely apartment, staring into the city's distant glow, I knew there was only one path forward. Glenn had given me clarity. Now it was up to me to find courage. Courage isn't always loud or bold. Sometimes, it's the quiet resolve to face the inevitable head-on. Determined, I gathered every scrap of evidence collected by the investigators. Financial documents, covert photographs, testimonies from those she deceived, and anonymous tips. It was a comprehensive dossier, one that told a story even the most skeptical observer couldn't ignore. The following week, an exclusive interview was arranged with a prominent investigative journalist, a woman whose reputation for truth was matched only by her distaste for scandal and manipulation. We met at a discreet cafe, far from prying eyes. As she leafed through the files, her expression shifted from professional curiosity to outright disbelief. "You understand the implications of releasing this information?" she asked carefully, her eyes meeting mine, assessing my readiness for the storm ahead. "I do," I responded, my voice steadier than I'd anticipated. "It's time for the truth to come out, whatever the cost." Days later, the story broke with the force of an earthquake, shaking the foundations of Karina's meticulously constructed narrative. Headlines screamed her deceit, detailing her financial manipulations, secret meetings, and betrayal. The public, once sympathetic to her plight, turned swiftly and mercilessly. I braced for backlash, but to my surprise, the wave of public opinion surged overwhelmingly in my favor. Yet, despite this newfound vindication, my heart found little joy. Justice was bittersweet. Watching Karina's carefully crafted empire crumble wasn't satisfying. It was sobering. Her life, once intertwined with mine, was unraveling rapidly. Each news segment, each damning article, pushed her further into isolation. Weeks later, Karina appeared unannounced at my apartment. Gone was the poised, calculating woman I'd known. In her place stood someone weary, diminished, vulnerable. The mask had fallen completely, leaving behind a truth that seemed painfully human. "Why?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, stripped of artifice. Why did you have to destroy everything? I looked at her, seeing clearly for the first time the person beneath all those layers of deception. I didn't destroy anything, I said gently. You built your world on lies, Karina. All I did was show the truth. She turned away, shoulders shaking, and I realized then that revenge offered no true victory. It was hollow, fleeting, a shadow of genuine peace. As she left, fading into the darkness of the hallway, I knew I'd finally closed this painful chapter of my life. Standing alone, gazing once more at the city lights below, I felt a weight lift from my chest. Glenn's inheritance had given me clarity. The journey had given me courage. Now, perhaps it was finally time to seek something even more elusive, peace. Finding peace was harder than I'd anticipated. It wasn't the silence of solitude that troubled me, but the echoes of past battles, the memories clinging stubbornly to my consciousness. Days melted into a blur of aimless walks, reflective evenings, and restless nights spent questioning my decisions. Had I done the right thing? Could I have handled it differently? Amid this internal struggle, an unexpected call from Glenn's attorney pulled me back into the fray. Attorney Hartwell invited me for a private meeting, his tone cryptic yet urgent. Curiosity compelled me, and within hours, I sat across from him once again, his office now filled with the weight of recent events. I thought our business was concluded, I said cautiously. Hartwell offered a thin smile. Almost, he replied, sliding a sealed envelope across his polished desk. Glenn left one final letter, intended to be given to you only after the dust settled. My pulse quickened as I broke the seal, Glenn's familiar handwriting immediately catching my eye. His words were brief yet profound. Wendell, wealth can build walls or bridges. Use it to rebuild your life, not imprison it. Find happiness beyond revenge, beyond wealth. That's the legacy I truly wanted for you. His words struck deep, shattering the last chains holding me to my past grievances. It was as if Glenn had seen beyond the drama, beyond the betrayal, straight into my soul, gently guiding me towards a new path. Inspired by his message, I began to channel my energy and inheritance into charitable causes, quietly supporting community initiatives, fostering education, and investing in meaningful relationships. Each act brought a subtle joy, replacing bitterness with gratitude, and resentment with genuine contentment. Months later, at the opening of a new community center funded by Glenn's legacy, I found myself surrounded by smiling faces, hopeful conversations, and the buzz of optimistic energy. For the first time since Karina's betrayal, I felt genuinely at peace, connected once more to a world I thought I'd lost. Glenn had given me more than clarity or courage. He'd shown me a path toward healing, a legacy not measured in dollars, but in lives touched and changed. As laughter filled the halls of the new center, I knew I had honored Glenn's true wish. Finally, standing among those whose lives were better because of his legacy, I found peace. Peace, however, rarely comes without trials. Just when I thought my life had settled into tranquility, whispers reached my ears. Karina was back in town, reportedly changed by her experiences. Rumors swirled of her volunteering quietly at shelters, attending counseling sessions, and avoiding any limelight. It was hard to reconcile these images with the woman who'd so expertly manipulated our lives. Curiosity gnawed at me, not with anger or resentment, but with genuine wonder. Had she truly changed? Was redemption possible for someone like her? Against my better judgment, I arranged to meet her in a quiet, neutral place, a park where families played and life unfolded without care. Karina arrived, dressed simply, her demeanor subdued. The fierce, calculated woman I knew seemed replaced by someone humbled, perhaps even broken. Her eyes, once sharp and piercing, now held vulnerability and regret. "Wendell," she started softly, choosing her words carefully, "I know I can't undo what's been done, but I want you to know I've spent every day since reflecting on my choices. I've learned something about myself. I didn't like who I'd become." Her honesty was disarming, and despite our painful history, a quiet sympathy stirred within me. "Why tell me this now?" She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. Because you deserve closure, too. And maybe, I'm hoping for forgiveness, not because I deserve it, but because carrying hate is too heavy a burden. Her sincerity was undeniable, and something inside me shifted. Forgiveness was not about excusing her actions, but about releasing myself from their hold. Karina, I finally replied, my voice steady, compassionate. I forgive you. Tears fell silently down her face, relief washing visibly through her posture. In that moment, I knew forgiveness wasn't weakness but strength, a strength I never imagined possessing. We parted ways quietly, each walking toward our own futures, unshackled by resentment. The sun dipped low, casting golden light across the park, a gentle reminder that every end can be a beginning. As I left the park, breathing deeply in newfound liberation, I realized Glenn's final lesson wasn't just about peace, but also about forgiveness. True healing came not only from letting go of anger but embracing the grace to move forward. Now, my path was clear, illuminated by the strength I'd discovered within. With forgiveness came the calm I had long yearned for, but life had one more unexpected twist in store. Months later, at a community charity event, one of many I attended as part of my new, purpose-driven life, I spotted Karina again. This time, however, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a young boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, with eyes that mirrored my own father-in-law's striking blue gaze. My heart stilled in recognition. Karina noticed me and approached slowly, holding the child's hand protectively. Her expression was calm, yet cautious. "Wendell, I'd like you to meet someone special," she said softly, her voice tinged with emotion. "This is Liam. He's Glenn's grandson." My breath caught sharply, countless questions flooding my mind, yet I managed only a quiet, "How?" Karina sighed, kneeling down gently to Liam's level. "It's a long story, one filled with regret and missed opportunities. Liam is my nephew, my brother's child. After my brother passed away, I became his guardian. Glenn never knew. It was another mistake I deeply regret." Liam looked up at me, innocent and curious. My heart swelled with unexpected tenderness. Here was a child who had unknowingly carried forward Glenn's legacy, a part of him living on. "I wanted you to meet him because he deserves to know his family," Karina continued, her eyes sincere. "And maybe, if you're willing, he could know you too." I knelt beside Liam, smiling gently. "I'd like that," I said softly, offering my hand. He took it shyly, his small grip firm, trusting. That simple connection, a child's touch, sealed the final gap between my past and my future. Through Liam, I found new purpose and renewed hope. Another chance to honor Glenn's memory, this time through family rather than fortune. As the sun began to set once more, casting a familiar golden hue across the gathering, I felt an overwhelming gratitude. Life had taught me difficult lessons about trust, betrayal, and redemption. Now it offered the chance to heal, rebuild, and nurture connections stronger than before. In that moment, holding Liam's hand and exchanging a quiet glance of mutual understanding with Karina, I realized my journey had come full circle. Glenn's true legacy wasn't wealth or power, but the enduring bonds of love and family. And in honoring those bonds, I finally found genuine peace. Life after that day unfolded with a richness I'd never expected. Liam became a bright spot in my life, our bond deepening with every visit, every shared moment. I found myself teaching him the same lessons Glenn had once imparted to me: patience, resilience, and the quiet strength of character. It felt right, as though I were passing down pieces of Glenn's wisdom, keeping his spirit alive through a new generation. Karina and I maintained a respectful distance but navigated this new relationship with maturity and mutual understanding. Our interactions were limited mostly to Liam, a conscious choice to protect the fragile peace we had carefully built. In time, the awkwardness faded into a comfortable civility, born from shared responsibilities and genuine care for Liam's well-being. As Liam grew older, he became curious about his grandfather, a man he'd never met but who had influenced his life profoundly. We spent countless evenings together, going through old photos and letters, each story deepening his connection to Glenn. Through Liam's eyes, I saw my father-in-law anew, appreciating even more deeply the impact he had on my life. Eventually, Liam became the foundation of a new, blended family structure. Birthdays, holidays, and simple weekends became cherished gatherings, filled with laughter, warmth, and healing conversations. Gradually, Karina and I found ourselves genuinely enjoying each other's company again. Not as partners, but as allies in nurturing Liam's future. One particularly bright summer afternoon, sitting together in the backyard, Liam playing nearby, Karina turned to me, her eyes thoughtful. "Glenn would have loved this," she said softly. "Seeing his family united, even in unconventional ways." I smiled, watching Liam chase a butterfly across the grass. "I think he knew exactly what he was doing," I replied, the realization dawning clearly. "He didn't just leave an inheritance. He left us a chance to find each other again." Karina nodded, her gaze warm with understanding. "I'm glad we took that chance." That moment encapsulated everything: acceptance, forgiveness, and the healing power of family. Glenn's inheritance had been far more profound than material wealth. It had guided us to discover the true meaning of love, connection, and redemption. As Liam's joyful laughter rang through the air, mingling with the gentle rustling of leaves, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. My journey from betrayal to peace had taught me that true legacy isn't something you inherit. It's something you build, day by day, choice by choice, heart by heart. Years passed, and Liam blossomed into an impressive young man. Wise, kind, and compassionate beyond his years. Glenn's lessons, filtered through my experiences and shared openly with Liam, had shaped him profoundly. As he stood on the stage at his graduation, poised and confident, speaking passionately about community, family, and integrity, my heart swelled with pride. Karina and I sat side by side, our relationship now anchored in mutual respect and shared pride for Liam. Time had healed old wounds, transforming what once felt like a devastating betrayal into a meaningful chapter of growth and understanding. We had both changed, softened by life's humbling lessons, stronger for the forgiveness we'd exchanged. After the ceremony, Liam approached, his cap in hand and a smile illuminating his face. He hugged Karina warmly, then turned to me, eyes bright with gratitude. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice filled with emotion. I clapped a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You made it easy," I replied, my own voice thickening. "Your grandfather would be incredibly proud." Later, as twilight settled over the celebrations, Karina and I stood quietly, watching Liam laugh among friends. "We've come a long way," she remarked gently, her voice tinged with reflective warmth. "We have," I agreed, feeling the depth of the journey we'd shared. "I'm grateful we got here," she smiled, sincere and content. "So am I." In that peaceful moment, clarity returned, sharpened by years of reflection and growth. Glenn's inheritance had set me on a path of discovery, not only of my own strength but of the enduring power of forgiveness, redemption, and love. I understood then that our truest legacies were never about wealth or power, but the lives we touched, the bonds we forged, and the lessons we passed down. And standing there, witnessing Liam stepping into a bright future, I realized I'd already inherited the richest legacy of all. A life rebuilt from betrayal, filled now with genuine peace and profound love.